Whoa, we're live. Hey guys, happy Friday.
It's Friday.
It's Friday, guys. It is Friday, October 16th. We got a great weekend ahead of us. Roll Tide, the Tide is playing the Dogs. It's going to be a big game, but Saban's got COVID, so it could be crazy. But
I was thinking instead of saying the date on the Gregorian calendar or whatever that it is, should we just go full maxi and just start telling people what block it is and using Bitcoin as our clock and no more constructed days of the week or dates and months?
You know, that's a really great point. And actually, when we started this show, way back, I would open up by saying exactly what block we were on, but that was something that I just dropped off doing. So
because you like to say Friday, is that the main thing?
Yeah, but it's all about the branding. It's
right.
Friday versus block 630,000 something now. So anyway, sorry for that digression. We got a lot of news we got to cover this week.
Gotta get into the news here.
It was a big week. Surprise, surprise. And I think we should kick it off, Peter. It seems like everyone's favorite soft fork has recently tapped into the root of Bitcoin's code. Can you tell us a little bit more about what happened?
Yeah, so your question set us up very nicely to tell everyone that Taproot has merged with Bitcoin Core. So the protocol upgrade, the code necessary to allow for Taproot, which is a code change that would enable some smart contract flexibility, some better privacy in Bitcoin. That's been merged into some Bitcoin code base. It's prepared for a software release. I think it's going to get some more reviews and dev work before that software is actually released. But I think community consensus is Taproot's really a good thing. Very little dissension. I don't know if I've seen any actual intelligent dissension on Taproot. So I think it's just kind of a feel-good, piece of progress that we've made. So yeah, big news this week. Taproot is officially merged into Bitcoin Core.
So then, does this mean that I can start using payment pools today? No?
No, you wouldn't be able to use any payment pools today, which is a privacy feature that Taproot would enable. All it means is that the necessary code has been built into the Bitcoin Core protocol, but it's not actually activated yet. And then even if it was part of a software release that you could signal support for as an individual Bitcoin node, everyone would need to do that. And so there's some steps that need to go down before you'd be able to. Oh, what's happened here?
Oh, sorry, I was just snoring.
Yeah, so there is actually good reason to snore here as well. The release wasn't just about Taproot. It also included some other features, things like support for a new version of Tor, which is a software that kind of protects your privacy online. And the big one other one besides Taproot is probably Schnorr signatures. So this release would let Bitcoin support Schnorr signatures. This has been something on the wish list for lots of Bitcoin devs for a long time, many years, I think. And it just kind of, I think, makes multi-signature transactions a little bit more flexible and makes multi-signature transactions look like regular transactions, so you can kind of obscure your Bitcoin use a little bit better. And in general, that's something all Bitcoiners want to be able to do, is kind of not signal specifically what they're doing.
Getting closer and closer to that fungibility goal.
That's right. So yeah, big week, big development for Bitcoin on the technical side, and just shout out, to bitcoinmagazine.com, the homepage. If you go there, it's pretty easy to find our Taproot coverage, really well done by Aaron Von Werdum. So if this has whetted your appetite, I defer to Aaron's really solid coverage with more of the details on what Taproot really means.
And we had that great show yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. We were on top of it.
Aaron and Chris and Andrew and
yep.
the whole crew. So it was great.
Check that out too for more details about like what the post Taproot Bitcoin world looks like. Yeah, so that was big on the technical side, but of course every single week there's more bullishness on the asset side of Bitcoin. And one thing I wanted to ask you about, Brandon, is I saw a pretty sizable legacy financial institution put out some bullish sentiment, and that would be Fidelity. And in my experience, Fidelity is actually one of the more woke legacy companies because they seem to signal support for Bitcoin as an asset more than some other ones. But what do they say this week? Why am I seeing like Fidelity's bullish on Bitcoin?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and there's been a bit of confusion about what we actually saw this week. So I'm glad we get a chance to kind of clarify that too. But Ria Butaria is one of the best researchers in Bitcoin. She's part of the Fidelity Digital Assets team, specifically on the research side, and she's been putting out this whole Bitcoin investment thesis kind of series. And her latest report that she put out was basically talking about how Bitcoin should be treated as an alternative asset. And it was a great piece. I recommend everyone go read it. You can read it at Fidelity's website. You can probably find Ria on Twitter. I think she goes by Ria Search, which is just well done. You spoke right to the heart of my punness. But anyways, she basically talks about how Bitcoin is this hypothetical portfolio, piece, and she puts out the hypothetical of, what if Bitcoin was 5% of your, broader portfolio at Fidelity, and she basically just shows like, this outperforms everything, and it was a really bullish piece. Unfortunately, some people got that to mean that Fidelity is suggesting everyone should just go put 5% of their resources in Bitcoin.
TLDR, bro.
That is not what they said. They want to make that pretty clear. So just clarifying that right here. But, I'll say that. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, but hey, go for it,
You're
right?
not saying to not do that.
Yeah.
You're just pointing out Fidelity didn't tell everyone to do that.
Exactly. So, it was a great piece. She really digs into the heart of how Bitcoin is uncorrelated to everything else. And I think they had like a chart there that was like, all the different kind of financial tools and assets. And Bitcoin's average correlation with everything is like a 0.11, like 11% correlation. It's like, that's on average. So it's just totally uncorrelated with anything. It's really cool. And it was a cool piece.
So is that kind of freedom from other assets, allocation-wise, the main reason, that she's suggesting portfolio managers?
Well, yeah. So this is one part of her thesis series. So this is like she's honing in on Bitcoin being this uncorrelated asset. She has a whole bunch of other things that she's put out about why Bitcoin is so valuable. But what's important is that I'm a bit of a noob when it comes to sophisticated investing. I'm just over here stacking sats. But the thing that most people who are like very sophisticated with investment is like, we've got to find assets that are uncorrelated. When one goes down, the other one might still go up. And that way, my entire portfolio isn't down one given day just because one thing happens. It's, there's a bit of anti-fragility built into that kind of thesis. So they're always looking for little pieces, little investments they can make that will not correlate with everything else to give them the most anti-fragile and, best chances of surviving portfolio. And that's what really she's making the case here for Bitcoin.
So for those people who aren't convinced, I need to get Bitcoin because Elon Musk is going to start mining gold on asteroids, this is the kind of argument that might convince them?
Exactly. It's like, even if you don't believe in Bitcoin at all in terms of what it could become, you should still invest in it a little bit. They're not saying you should definitely, but this is what it looked like if you did invest in it a little bit just as an uncorrelated asset.
So I know you love to put your speculation hat on anytime I invite that opportunity. Thoughts on what this might do for the Bitcoin price in the near to medium term future?
Well, it's hard to say. I think Bitcoin really broadly is just in its classic 4-year cycle, and we're in a great part of the cycle right now. We're in a up to the right kind of steady movement. So I would expect that to continue. And what we're really seeing is all of the kindling, all of the, firewood to ignite the big mania phase of what will be next year, is my guess. So, what we're looking at is an even higher ceiling than we had before because we've got Fidelity out here, creating Bitcoin theses.
Nice, for sure. And so I think that was kind of the big bullish news that we wanted to highlight this week. But I enjoyed jumping into this kind of research article that would be true regardless of the Bitcoin price. And that's my favorite type of content out there.
Well, yeah. I put on my thinking cap, which goes over my brain.
That it does.
But there's other Bitcoin brain-related things going on this week.
That was very nice. That was
BitMEX Research released their first piece since BitMEX's run-in with the feds. And I'd like to think there's a hidden message here, but I don't know. Can you tell us what it was about?
Yeah, I don't know that there's any hidden message to the authorities. I think an overt message is like, hey, do it, despite legal turmoil that the exchange faces, BitMEX Research is going to keep plugging along and keep putting out the kind of reporting and analytics that they've done for years. That I think if anyone's seen this show, they know I'm a huge BitMEX Research fanboy. So this week they put out a report called, I think it's called Call Me Ishmael. And it's just kind of like a quirky and fun little experiment with brain wallets. Brain wallets is a concept in Bitcoin that goes back. I mean, we have an article about it from 2012. So I guess I couldn't trace the exact origin, but the concept of it has been around for some time. It's essentially where you use some online tools to reduce your private key or your Bitcoin address into easily memorizable phrases or strings of numbers, something kind of reduced, and then just keep that in your brain. Delete all information that would signal your private keys or anything like that off the internet. It's the only place where your Bitcoin's accessible is through your memory, hence a brain wallet. And BitMEX Research essentially generated some brain wallets based on really popular literary phrases, including Call Me Ishmael, which I think is like the opening line from Moby Dick. And made the brain wallet, sent a little bit of BTC to each address, and found that they were all pretty quickly hacked and stolen. And so the general conclusion there is that there's some bad actors out there who've already generated all these brain wallet private keys based on popular phrases of all kinds, and so you can't really get away with coming up with a cliche, turning that into your phrase for your brain wallet and having that safely store your Bitcoin.
Whoa. So you're telling me that if I Shaw 256 the lyrics to my favorite song, Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen, that someone might be able to go steal my Bitcoin?
So it wasn't like a newsy report, and there's no urgency that I know of in the news to kind of generate these brain wallets, and that's what I really love about BitMEX Research, to even think like, hey, maybe I'll try this and see what happens. But I was surprised, and I think it is revealing to find out that, yes, enough bad actors have generated enough addresses based on popular phrases that this is probably already stolen. That some of the BitMEX Research phrases were really more nuanced than Call Me Ishmael, and all that stuff was stolen. So yeah, I think is that bullish for Bitcoin that like people have already thought of these hacks and already generated it all? I don't know how easy it would be to do.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure it's just a bot that consistently scans and tries to transact out of any sort of obviously published materials online that are turned into a private key. But this hidden message thing that I really want to pontificate on is we have BitMEX getting run in with the feds. We have them already having arrested. I think he's released now. Their CTO
posted bail, but it's like
posted
$5 million, which is a whole different tangent to get in on, but
so they're having all these issues, and they choose now to release a piece basically talking about how you can walk around with all the value that you own just in your brain. I love the idea that maybe they're wandering around with billions of dollars in their brain.
Yeah, maybe. This experiment involved very relatively small amounts of Bitcoin. I really do want to push back that any idea that the two new pieces of news out of BitMEX here related is pure speculation on Brandon's part. I haven't seen anything that would prove it beyond that. But I doubt it. But, I don't know that for sure. So if it makes you feel better to imagine we're living in that world, then that maybe that's possible.
I'll keep dreaming on.
Keep dreaming. And so, again, that was news that I just thought was very cool. That is what I like about Bitcoin news. It just kind of happens outside current events. But we haven't talked about the hottest news of the day yet, Brandon. And I want to throw this question to you because I woke up this morning and I think I saw a tweet indicating that OKEx is not going to let people withdraw their funds right now. What the heck is going on?
Yeah, so let's start by saying this entire situation is one big cluster of unknown and speculation and really weird. All right, there's just a lot of weird information out there.
But that's never stopped us before, and I won't let it stop us now.
Absolutely.
What is going on, Brandon?
Absolutely. So, here's what we know piecemeal, and some of this almost feels contradictory. So if you feel like I'm making this stuff up, I'm not making it up, but this is what we know. We know that in a report on Friday, Kaijin, which is one of the big Chinese media outlets, reported that Mingjing star Zhu was taken by police at least a week ago and hasn't been seen since. All right, that's step one. Step two is first off, we don't know where he was when he was taken by police either. They have an office in Malta, they have an office in Hong Kong. Logic would probably suggest it was probably in Hong Kong, but we don't really know. So that's kind of the first thing. The second thing is this comes, the next thing that we know is that basically OKEx started suspending withdrawals. So, my head is saying that OKEx probably had some hot wallets that they still were able to process withdrawals while they were freaking out about, one of their founders being in police custody that had access to a whole bunch of other Bitcoin that, they needed him either for multi-sig or something in order to get that Bitcoin into a hot wallet that people can withdraw from, and they still haven't heard from him. So they're like, "Crap, we gotta halt withdrawals until we can get access to this Bitcoin." That's interesting, but then there's more information that makes it even more confusing, which is that this guy Star Zhu, it says he's not actually part of the OKEx team. He's part of the larger OKCoin group or OK group team, and so my immediate question is, well, then why is his arrest preventing OKEx from being able to?
Even if he was part of the direct team, any position that you could tell me he holds at the exchange, I would still ask that question.
Well, yeah, and so the broad story is we don't really know why he's in police custody. We are pretty sure he doesn't have anything to do with the exchange, even though he still is the reason why the exchange isn't able to process withdrawals. And we don't see any sort of timeline being published about when withdrawals will be able to start being processed again. So a lot of confusion. And I don't really have a clear answer of what to do here, except don't leave your Bitcoin on the exchange.
Not that you could withdraw it now if you needed to from OKEx, but
too late.
I mean, this seems like a super bad way to manage an exchange, to have a single point of failure that prevents you from moving funds around as needed. So, I was super surprised to see this was preventing OKEx Coin from operating, aren't you?
Well, yeah, and it's an interesting thing to contrast this with BitMEX just 2 weeks ago, where, they arrested some of their founders and they were still able to process withdrawals.
That's right.
In fact, they were like, yo, if you want to withdraw, go do it now. We will move forward the timeline to process withdrawals. Feel free. They've got a really good key system, multi-sig system that they're working through, whereas clearly OKEx, you got some work to do.
It makes me wonder who's doing it right the BitMEX way and who's doing it wrong, because I was surprised to see this level of mess up by OKEx. But this whole story immediately gave me strong Quadriga vibes. If you remember that cryptocurrency exchange drama, do you see any parallels there, or is it just me?
So it's a really great question. Of course, who could forget the Quadriga CEO going to India, I think, or somewhere in Southern Asia, and getting sick and passing away with the keys to all the Bitcoin that was held by the exchange, and like hundreds of millions of dollars lost. Yeah.
I haven't forgotten.
Yeah. And all the conspiracies that have evolved around that as well are just, entertaining. And I won't even put the hat on for that. But, are there parallels? Sure there are. I mean, you're looking at the same issue where one person disappears and all the funds are like frozen. So, it's dangerous. It's always dangerous to trust someone else with your keys. If you're gonna use an exchange to buy Bitcoin, take it off after you buy it. Don't just leave it on there, because you never know how they're running their processes in the back end. And I mean, I think, I don't want to speculate hard on this OK group kind of thing, but it's weird that the exchange would have someone not involved with the exchange in official capacity holding keys to funds that are stored on the exchange. It's just like, you shouldn't do that, probably. So I don't want to cast any sort of shame or doubt or anything on OKEx, and they say that they're going to be able to unlock these funds soon. But in the meantime, this is a very interesting story to watch, and I'm interested to see kind of how it evolves.
And I can't think of a better note to end any week's episode on than yet another example. Bitcoin is controlled by private keys. If you don't hold the private keys, if you trust someone else to be managing private keys on your behalf, then you are giving up control over your funds.
Not your keys, not your coins.
That's right.
I'll end it actually on an even more optimistic note, though.
Please do.
And here's the interesting thing, is that now we've seen BitMEX get screwed by the feds. We've seen Trump get COVID. We've seen
in 3 weeks?
Yeah, KuCoin hack. We've seen OKEx, unable to process withdrawals. We've seen, a bunch of regulatory crackdown on other crypto stuff. After this latest one, Bitcoin has dropped, like OKEx, I think 3% maybe, like if even. Bitcoin is not dropping off of all of this news that would normally just send it through the floor. This is a incredibly bullish signal. Holy cow. How is Bitcoin continuing to just be shrug all this off? I have no idea. This is crazy to me. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Bitcoin doesn't care about the news, but we care about the news. So thanks for joining us on Weekly Bits, your weekly news.
And we care about you.
That's right.
Weekly Bits.